How you doing? Monday night here in the United States. It is the end of a holiday weekend, so it is the time for the physicist and philosopher hour. So, Dr. Albers, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. And how are you, Brian?
Doing good, doing good. I'll tell you, it's just been a beautiful day here in Colorado. Just was in the low, I think, 60s for a high, which is
Okay.
great. I enjoyed that.
It's spring, I suppose.
Yeah, so they say. I don't know.
You
I
don't
just
know?
want to say hello, everyone in the chat room. How are y'all doing? Um, Gary, good to see you. So, Claudia, you know, you did a couple of well, your papers are always good, but there were a couple this week that I thought that we would go kind of directly into it because I think two things. The relevancy of this week's, well, when I say this week's, we'll speak of last week's news releases. Two
Yeah.
things came out in the news. First part of last week was the admission by, I believe it was Goddard, that has in fact said that there is a planet, maybe an exoplanet, but there is something definitely out there that has been perturbating the orbits of not only Neptune, Pluto. Seems the gas giants are really being disturbed. So that now begins to give credence to Dr. Harrington's work. We all know what happened to Dr. Harrington.
Mm-hmm.
Lastly, the report came out on Friday by the Pentagon that there's more to this story of the UFO encounter of 2004. It now appears that there was hostile action with this UFO. This craft was doing remarkable maneuvers. Our pilots couldn't keep up with it. It seemed to be toying with the USS Nimitz, which is quite remarkable in itself that, for a unidentified flying object to buzz a U.S. aircraft carrier, that is no, that's very serious, very serious.
Mm.
So I thought that what we would do, Claudia, is go directly to your papers. And specifically, I thought what we would do is let's talk about your first one on
Mhm.
Planet Nine.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so I think this hour just be dedicated. I won't be spending too much time into the chat room,
Okay.
but these two articles, particularly one on Planet Nine and the other one on aliens existing, I think are
Mm.
very relevant for our
Okay.
time. So I'll turn it over to you. I'll be your driver. So
Sure.
you have the
Okay.
floor.
So some articles have come out in the news about Planet Nine, and they always do every year. So this is not new because whenever they find something strange out there, they will say, oh, it's a known object in the solar system. It's been here all the time. It's just being perturbed. And in this case, it's a small object. I believe it's a small object, it's an extreme trans-Neptunian object because it's really out there in the solar system. It's 2015 BP 519. And you can see from there how extreme its orbit is because its perihelion position, or its closest position to the sun, is 35.2 AU. That in itself is already further than Neptune because Neptune's orbit is 30 AU. And that's its closest position. But its furthest position, as you can see from there, is 863 AU from the sun. Now, this is 8 times larger than the edge of the solar system. So
Yeah.
at its furthest position is 8 times further than the edge of the solar system, which is at 100 AU. So what does that tell you? That immediately tells me that, first of all, this is an object that has been recently captured. And it's in an orbit that takes it way out of the solar system. So to me, immediately I say, well, this is a new capture. But you see, the theories that astronomers have, and they never change, is the solar system is the way it is. We can never admit that new objects are being captured and are becoming part of the solar system. That's like taboo. So we don't go there. So it must mean that Planet 9 is out there and it's perturbing the orbit of this object. That's why it's so strange, and so on and so forth.
Okay.
I'm not saying that there's no Planet 9 out there either. There could be another planet. But the fact is, what we actually have, and we can see the orbit there, it's quite inclined at 54 degrees, not as much as Nico, which I talked about the other day, which I think I also mentioned in this article further down. I mentioned Nico, which is in a polar orbit and retrograde, which tells you even more that it's a newly captured object. So we have all sorts of objects that look like the new additions to the solar system.
So can I just stop right there a second? So we now know that there are objects coming into our solar system. We know that, as you were talking about the one that we spoke last week about, Nico, is that right?
Yeah, Nico, yeah.
Yeah. So that has a retrograde, and just so everyone knows, the retrograde is going opposite of what our solar system is doing. Now, did I read correctly as well that was it, and I'm trying to think, either Neptune or Saturn that has captured, and I want to make sure I'm speaking on this correctly, an object, but it has also a retrograde. So I guess my question, Claudia, is it feasible or possible that we're encountering either another system and or that we're coming into potentially a debris field?
Well, I would think, well, first of all, we have encountered a new system. We have evidence that this system has been entering our solar system for at least 150 years. That's what I call the Planet X system, the stellar cores.
Okay.
So that's the first thing, but no one will ever go there. No astronomer will ever mention it. I am the only one, basically, that has been saying, look, the system is here. It's been here now for 150 years, and it seems to still be coming in. More and more objects seem to be appearing, and I believe more and more objects seem to be affecting our planet, because they don't just go to the sun. Most of them have gone to the sun, but they go to the other planets. So why is Jupiter and Saturn being affected? Because these objects are affecting them. They will go to every planet in the solar system, not just the sun. But most of them have gone to the sun. So that the Earth may have quite a few of them that are have now been captured. Earth has become their host, because they're looking for that energy that all these celestial objects are producing in the core, because they deplete it, and so they attracted to that energy. They hit stars. So
what I'm seeing in my thoughts, Claudia, is that we speak about 150 years, but I follow on to the second part of your statement. Is it possible that we're coming into a more dense system, debris, whatever you want to say it? We know that it's counter to ours. So is it possible that we're going to be seeing what many people of the electric universe theory believe, that our solar system was wildly chaotic, and it wasn't that many years ago when you speak of cosmic times? I mean, we're talking less than, in some cases, 100,000 years.
Yes, I believe that a lot of things have happened to our solar system. I think we may have had the Saturn system come in. We've had comets come through, and we believe possibly one of the planets of the solar system was destroyed. That's why we have an asteroid belt right in the middle of the system, which is
And why won't the astrophysicist deal with that? I mean, to simply say that it was a collection point, more or less, well, you know how it works, that doesn't ever make any sense.
Because it's taboo. Just like talking about electric fields in space is taboo. You cannot go there. And if you do, you lose your job. If you start talking about the fact that the solar system is constantly changing and objects are coming into it, then the question is, will Earth be affected?
Yes.
And the moment that question can be asked, then, we're not supposed to go there, because what is happening is the Earth is being threatened right now. But the powers that be don't want the population to get the idea that that is occurring.
Well, and to back what you just said, on Saturday, I believe, and if I'm correct, about, 8 o'clock or so Mountain Time, there was another rather large object that became between us and the moon. Again, these are becoming more frequent, and they're becoming closer, Dr. Albers. This is what I don't get, why someone's not saying something.
The thing is, they will still tell us about the asteroids, especially the ones that just miss us.
Yeah, always after the fact. Hey, guys, guess what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fine. We were fine. We were fine. No problem.
Yeah.
The thing is, these stellar cores are large. Their gravitational effect is small, but it still affects the Earth. And I see the sign of this volcanic eruption in Hawaii. I see the sign of the effects of these objects on the Earth.
That's what's also, I think it's pretty well confirmed now that the African mid-Rift Valley there, that's separating. I mean, it's just...
And it's separating at a rate which is supposed to be impossible in terms
of tens of thousands of years?
Yes. It's supposed to take millions of years, and it's doing it overnight.
Well, no, maybe that's one thing that we can say, well, we did experience the eternal youth. I don't know. So getting back to Planet 9 again, much talk, as you know, about Nibiru, Nemesis, many documents that deal with the destroyer. It appears that our ancestors, modern man, that means sapiens, did in fact see something happen to the Earth that was witnessed. Is this, and I'm kind of asking myself both a question to you and I at the same time I'm answering it, but is this the system that it's not so much that it's such this 3,600 year orbit, but I think the times are wrong. I think that this system is just, as you said, has been here many, many times. It's just that we have not been in a position to see it as it rotates through.
The thing is, Wayne, we have evidence, like this photograph gives us evidence that these objects, these stellar cores, are here. I've been studying them for months. I've figured out what they are doing, how that gravitationally they are weak, but they are huge objects. They are about the size of Jupiter. Some of them are about the size of the sun.
Yes.
So even though the gravitational effect is weak, there is still a gravitational effect. They come very close to the sun. And I've discovered that the sun and the Earth are not that different. The Earth produces the same energy the sun does in its core. So these objects are attracted to the Earth as well. So that's another thing they don't want the people to know.
Thank you. I hope you write a paper on that, because it's one of the difficult things many people have, that if the Earth was taken away from our star, our sun, and let's say we were thrown out for whatever reason, the Earth, we'd have to go into the Earth, but we would survive very well. It's been very well proven that it could sustain life for billions of years.
Yes, it absolutely. The Earth produces heat inside it, and it also creates an electric field in the atmosphere where we get lightning and radiation is emitted just like the sun, except it's a much weaker electric field, so it doesn't produce not nearly as much light as a star like the sun. The sun is huge compared with the Earth.
So as I think about this, Claudia, I always think about the cosmic rays that we're getting pelted with now. We know that it's affecting our chromosomes. Mm-hmm. Our DNA, as we speak, is being altered, damaged beyond repair, and that's what's called evolution. That's how mutations are brought forth. But here's the thing. So cosmic rays, couldn't that be a source of light as well? I mean, if you were taken far enough, okay, that's what I was wondering.
The thing is, you get two forms of cosmic rays. Most of the time it's referred to as particles, which are as a result of particle collisions with particles, and then other particles through reactions emerge. Most of the ones that are affecting us are neutrons and muons. Those are the ones that have a half-life long enough to reach to the surface of the Earth. But the thing is, we get gamma rays, very high energy gamma rays that are part of this cosmic radiation. But don't forget one thing. It's been discovered that whenever we have a lightning flash in the atmosphere, it produces X-rays and gamma rays, and particle-antiparticle creation also occurs. And that's lightning in the Earth's atmosphere.
So that's new.
Yeah, well, there's lots of articles on that on the internet.
Why wouldn't that would make sense? I mean, so lightning is basically the intensity with the same thing. It's plasma. Mm-hmm. When you said gamma rays, what I always think about as well is that gamma is in the visible light spectrum. We can't see it, but it is, right?
Gamma ray is the highest energy light in the universe. So anything, I mean, it can go in frequency up to anything we've never encountered. It's still called a gamma ray. And it's above the visible light in energy. So,
Claudia, I'd love to have a theory. What would that look like? I know we can measure it with instruments, but if we had the sensitivity of the full light spectrum, I wonder what that type of energy would look like. I digress.
Yeah, well, we would just see everything in different colors, I suppose.
Ooh, that's what I was thinking, that it would probably, I read a theory here recently that what we see is of the white light spectrum.
Yeah, it is.
And that is, in fact, a very narrow part of the spectrum that where we will discover one day that we're going to begin to see shifts, for instance, in different colors, but they're not going to be in the sense of what we think colors are today. I don't know. I digress. So getting back to the stellar cores, I had a subscriber this weekend send a picture in, and I'll tell you, he captured what clearly looked to me to be an object in the atmosphere.
That's right, because you see, what we are seeing one of the stellar cores interacting with the sun. It's in the sun's corona. That is, it's in the sun's atmosphere. It goes into it and makes a connection with the sun. Now, if it does the same thing with the Earth, what do we expect it to be? To actually get to the point where it's actually touching the Earth's atmosphere. And then we would get things like water spouts, because the gravitational attraction is tidal, and it's of a form that it would actually pull water from the surface of the ocean. And in that tube region where it's making a connection with the Earth, we get a different gravitational field. And this is why we see things like rocks float upwards, carried by the stellar core along with it, and end up on a beach.
That's why you said earlier that gravity is not constant.
No, that's what they show, because we see them approach the sun. If these objects were interacting gravitationally with the sun as we would expect, they would collide with the sun. They would never leave the sun. They would collide, become embedded, and never leave. We don't see that. They just hover. We see them sometimes go past the sun at an incredibly slow speed, which is way below the escape velocity of the sun. It would be impossible for them to do this if the gravitational interaction did not vary in strength.
So let's carry this forward because it's beginning to connect the dots for me. So we have what we call the mid-Atlantic magnetic anomaly that is now intensifying. Off the scale. If you folks that I know, we have listeners down in Brazil, you folks in that whole area, you're getting pounded with just the magnetic intensity. So would these objects, as they pass by, and I think that there's a lot of them out there, would they be aiding to the unstabilization of our magnetosphere?
They can affect our magnetic field in two ways. First of all, they are weakening the sun. The sun is very, very weak. We don't actually know how weak the sun is. One day, if the sun simulation system fails, then we will know for certain what the state of the sun is. The sun may be very dim at the moment. We are not sure, because we have a sun simulation system that simulates the sun all the time. So they are weakening, but we know they are weakening the sun. We know the sun must be much weaker than it used to be 20 years ago, say. So when the sun is weak, the solar wind decreases. Okay.
Yes.
And that picture is important. I'll talk about it just now.
Okay.
So the solar wind will decrease. When the solar wind decreases, we get less particles coming in from the sun impacting our magnetosphere. And the greater part of our magnetic field is produced by these particles, which are aligned with the Earth's permanent magnetic field, which is quite weak, but is what sets the direction of the magnetic field. So when the solar wind decreases, our external magnetic field will decrease because the solar wind has decreased. It's based upon it. And then the other thing that they are doing is the gravitational and the magnetic field are aligned. So by affecting the Earth's gravitational field and connecting with it, they are affecting the magnetic field as well. Because whenever you get a gravitational field, you get particles that are moving around in a vortex, and these are charged particles. So you are creating a magnetic field as well. So that will affect things as well. You never get one thing without the other. You basically always get the three fields together: the gravitational, the electric, and the magnetic. Because the particles that produce them always produce the three fields.
Wouldn't that also have a chemical effect? It would be a byproduct of it interacting, let's say, with a mass of water. The atmosphere is gases, mostly nitrogen, right? That is the greatest part. So when we start seeing these particles come in, not only affecting, our magnetic field, but it would begin to affect things like the ocean, right?
Yes, it affects everything. Basically, the stellar cores are absorbing matter from the Earth. They absorb, first of all, atmosphere. As they get stronger, they will move on to absorbing ocean water. And then eventually they'll move on to absorbing actually soil. They will be very attracted to volcanic areas because In volcanic areas, you have magma rising from the center of the Earth, and this magma has more of the energy that is produced in the Earth's core. And that's what these objects are attracted to, that energy.
Interesting.
That's what they cannot produce anymore, so they're attracted to the end. So they'll be attracted especially to volcanoes, volcanic areas, or areas where deep ocean trenches that where the Earth's mantle is more accessible to them.
Well, something's happened in Hawaii. We definitely know that Mauna Loa is definitely. I got married. My wife and I got married in Hawaii on the Big Island, and we actually hired the helicopter company, and we went on the volcano and saw where the lava lake was at. It's hard to imagine what's happening there. So I'm wondering if this has opened up a fissure in that trench or what.
Yeah, I think one of my articles that I'm not sure if I must have sent it to you. I showed actually what happens, how the stellar core makes the connection, and then there are channels from the center of the Earth all the way up. And as they pull on the ocean, they pull on the magma in the outer core in the same way and pull it upwards towards the surface due to that gravitational interaction.
I'll pull that up as you're talking. So,
yeah. But one of the strong evidence, of the strongest evidence we have that the stellar cores are affecting the Earth is the ocean recession events, which is evidenced by this photograph. This has never happened before until last year. Suddenly, the ocean just disappears. And that has to be a tidal effect. And that means there's an object in orbit around the Earth exerting these tidal effects on the Earth. Yep. And that's the stellar cores. It's got to be them.
Can you see this?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the Hawaiian Islands?
Yeah.
Okay. So
yeah, this is why, I mean, I've been observing what's happened with Hawaii for a while, and right at the beginning when they had that 6.9 magnitude earthquake, I thought, oh, this is bad. This is going to be really bad. Because that earthquake told me that the eruption was not actually releasing the pressure, and there was much, much more to come up.
Wow. So do you want me to continue down here?
Yes,
okay.
Because I have a diagram. So again, I talk about what's occurring with the ocean recession. It tells you we must have objects very close to the Earth exerting a tidal force on the Earth. So gravitational interaction is weak, but from very close. And we also know these objects are there because of these colors in the sky. And I show in this diagram how they connect and how they cause the ocean to pile up, just like the moon would, but they're coming much, much closer to the Earth than the moon does.
And I think sometimes it escapes us when we begin to think that the Earth, I mean, the mantle is very thin, that the greater part of our planet, particularly underneath us, is, well, viscous, liquid.
Yeah, that's right, because the outer core and part of the mantle is liquid. It's only the crust and the upper portion of the mantle that is solid. And because there's so much heat being generated by our planet in the core. So one of the things that they can do is cause crustal displacements. And as they get stronger, they will more likely to cause crustal displacements. And that means where the top portion of the Earth ends up in a different position with respect to the core.
While you're talking, I have a beautiful picture that will show the Earth, Claudia, that without the water, without the oceans. And when you see that, it's very interesting to see that our planet, we can see where it's been hit by previous asteroids. I don't know. Looks like one is big enough that was almost a mini planet. So I'm going to try to find this while I'm talking. It's kind of like, it's like, give me 1 second. I am going through. People are going, come on.
Yeah, the Earth is in a very strange shape, and that may be because it's not so long ago, only about 4,000 years ago, the Earth must have gone through a huge cataclysm.
Yes.
So it hasn't had time really to recover, and it's about to get hit by another one. It's a slowly growing one this time. It's not something that will happen. It will rain for 40 days and then it's over. This one actually starts out slower and increases in magnitude.
Yes, and I'm going to. And I think we have seen evidence that from Secchi. I think we have seen it from Stereo B when it was up and running. And I'm going to find this, Claudia, so you can keep on with, I know I'm not pulling down the graphs, but I think it's important, just by what you just said right there, is that we get a handle on what's really taking place out there, and it's not uncommon for our planet.
Yeah, I think there have been a lot of cataclysms that the Earth may have gone through. We know of one, and that's about 4,000 years ago. And the floods, whatever happened there. I mean, every civilization, every culture seems to have some story relating to that flood. We know that it's in the Bible. So I think the flood occurred. I don't think Earth was the only planet in the solar system to be affected. Mars seems to have been affected because it's lost its oceans.
Yep.
And these cataclysms can occur. And James McCanney was the one who introduced me to the idea of comets, which don't even have to impact the planet to cause a huge cataclysm. And it fits that it was water in a comet's tail that engulfed the Earth and caused this kind of torrential rain. And it would cause the Earth to also break up. Don't forget, the Earth is broken. There are fissures all over the place. There are volcanoes all over the place. Some of them are not active, but they may become active now with the stellar cores because they will have a tendency to increase the volcanic eruptions dramatically. So we are at the brink of a cataclysm. And I think what's happening in Hawaii is telling us what is about to occur. This is the beginning. And it started with Hawaii. Where else is it going to go next? It's going to affect other volcanic regions.
So, Claudia, can you see this?
Yes, I can see that.
So this is the Earth.
It's definitely not spherical.
You can definitely see that. You can see where we took an impact here. And the result was over here. You can see what it did. This is Africa.
Yeah.
This is South America, the North America. And look at here. We set another big impact here. There's been a smaller impact here. And you can see this has just ripped a hole. This is Indonesia. So there you go. It goes exactly with what we were talking about.
I mean, if we look at Mars, Mars has no oceans and it's spherical.
Mm-hmm. Well, we can see our planet is not, which lends a lot to the theory that Tiamat and whatever it hit.
Yeah.
This is what I think is some of the best evidence that shows that Earth is not what I think is one solid object. What do you think?
And it means that it's gone through something that made it in this shape.
Yeah, well, it's remarkable when you see it. It really is.
Yeah, because, I mean, an object planets are supposed to be spherical. They're supposed to, as they form, go through something that causes them to melt and then become spherical due to their own gravitational field. Obviously, the Earth is not like that.
Well, I'll send this to you. I've studied this and I continue to marvel at this because it lends to me credence that our Earth is not how a planet was supposed to form. It's clearly shown here that I think that we were a part of something else.
It's possible. It's possible. It's possible that we were the portion or even the central portion, perhaps, of another larger planet, which and the outer parts broke away from it, because we do seem to have a definite core inside it, and a strong core produces a lot of energy because we have such a lot of heat inside it.
Mm-hmm. We do.
So, yeah, that's definitely a possibility. And it could be the rest of Earth is in the asteroid belt of what was originally.
Well, now, I don't find that to be all that impossible. You have to begin to say, well, with the water, we now have this globe that it gives us a spherical planet. But so I just thought I'd share that with you. I'll get back to
very interesting, Wayne. It's definitely very interesting.
Well, thank you, Claudia. And you're the person to actually talk about this. So let me get back over here because this is relevant to what I think we're seeing in Hawaii now, along with this continued rupture of what I think is taking place in Indonesia. I think it's very interesting that I heard today that these oarfish that are now being caught and washing up on shores, there is a thought out there, a theory that says that when they get displaced from their natural habitat, which is very deep, is that these are progenitors of a shift, an earthquake, something about to take place.
Ah, yes. Yeah, because it will most likely start at the bottom of the ocean. I think the volcanoes around the world have been erupting at the bottom of the ocean without most people actually noticing. And that's the reason why our oceans have been warming up so dramatically. So here's the picture that I wanted you to see.
Yes.
If we have a stellar core making this connection with the Earth's atmosphere, it's coming very close to the, and this one I made big because you have to realize a lot of these stellar cores, even though their gravitational attraction is of a small comet coming very close to the Earth, because the gravitational strength is weak. It's only 0.6% of what it should have been for their particular size. But that's to do with the gravitational constant, which varies. But if they make this connection, they will attract the ocean up towards them. You may even see a form of water spout connecting the surface of the ocean. And they will produce a lot of cloud and a low pressure system. They will most likely produce an intense storm right underneath them.
Isn't salinity of ocean water very electrical?
Yeah, it's not just that. It's because as they pull on the atmosphere, they cause a low pressure.
Okay.
And the low pressure will lead to cloud formation and a storm system to come in operation. It will, of course, the gravitational field will be aligned with an electric field and with a magnetic field. And all of that will produce a storm system. So whenever I actually saw the other day, we had a huge storm come by, and we looked outside and the sky looked burnt orange around the storm. And I said, oh my goodness, that's a stellar core right above us. So, but let's go back to that diagram, Wayne.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I didn't
There we
finish
go. There we go.
explaining there. Sorry, I got
Okay.
distracted. So what we see here is the stellar core will exert a pull, a force on the magma in the liquid outer core. And that will cause this magma to come up through the channels towards the surface. And this is what then will cause a volcanic eruption. And
interesting.
so it can pull a whole lot of magma just by being above, right up. And then this magma will keep coming up. It will enter these channels. It will start affecting volcanoes that are adjacent to the volcano that first started erupting as well. And that tells you that it may start affecting Yellowstone, which is probably the next volcano if you move up towards the west coast of the United States.
Well, I would hope that maybe one of those ones on the west coast would go off.
Yes.
Yellowstone's just up the road from us here. I keep on always thinking about that, but you're right.
They all related. They all connected somehow inside the Earth. And when one starts erupting, eventually others will as well.
It's kind of like a domino effect.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and I think of the mantle is really just nothing more than riding on an electrical grid, kind of, because I believe in the theory of sudden tectonic shifting. That, the theory is that when you see continental drift take place, it's taking over, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years. I think there's another theory that would say that in the event that something would from outside our solar system could affect the Earth in such a manner that you would see a sudden shift of the tectonic plates in such a manner that it would literally move continents.
Yeah, I mean, we can get the crustal displacement, like I said. The other thing that can happen is because of their absorption of the Earth's energy, that the Earth's energy may drop. When that occurs, what we would have is the Earth could actually suddenly increase in size.
Ah.
Yeah.
The expanding Earth. Yeah.
It could suddenly go through an expansion event. And that will be cataclysmic as well, and also cause all the continental plates to move apart and the ocean to increase in size and get shallower. All that can happen. We are in flux now because of this system of stellar cores that are in the inner solar system. They are affecting our planet. We can see they are affecting our planet. And the first sign of that was the ocean recession, because the ocean was being pulled up towards them, and that was causing another part to become very shallow, to have a low tide. So that was
that's what we saw here, right?
That's what we saw there, exactly.
Yeah. Makes sense. So go ahead. This is wonderful.
Yeah, so a lot of things can happen to our planet. I think will happen. They will not all happen at the same time. It seems to be like a slowly accelerating kind of event that's occurring. But we are, from what I've seen, what's happening this week is, well, when I started seeing the Hawaiian volcanic eruption, I thought, oh, this is going to be bad here. And this means what's happening here will happen in other places. And not all volcanoes will erupt like Hawaii. A lot of them will have sudden eruptions.
What I find fascinating about this eruption, which is unlike any ones that now they say that this magma is now mixing with the magma that was the last time that there was an eruption of this magnitude, 1955. This one's worse, but it's forming new cinder cones. It's quite, we're looking at, we know this, the subdivision there, and we actually have one of the subscribers that lives on the island there. This is just amazing, Claudia, what's happening.
Yeah. And this is not, to tell you the truth, if I was living on an island or close to any coastline right now, I would do, and I didn't believe in the rapture, I would move away from those coastlines and
No.
from islands, because this is what's going to happen. We're going to get mega tsunamis. This is going to happen all over the world, in every ocean, and all coastlines, all islands are going to get inundated. And devastated.
So what I'm understanding on this, Claudia, is that what we're seeing is a huge, what would you describe this? Is this a rift? Is this I don't know what
what happens is, if we get a prolonged or a very large sudden eruption, or even sometimes just a very large earthquake, which may be volcanic activity related, you can suddenly get part of an island sliding into the ocean.
Okay.
Yeah. So when you have a large amount of matter suddenly fall into the ocean, you get a huge splash.
Yes, you do.
And that's what creates a mega. Another thing that can create it is an asteroid falling into the ocean. Also creates a huge splash. And that's called a mega tsunami. It's different from a normal tsunami. Normal tsunami is created by an earthquake. There's movement at the bottom of the ocean. And the wave that is created is not very high. It's only a few inches high out in the ocean. But as it moves to shallow ocean, as you reach the coastline, it will go up to 30 feet in height. But mega tsunamis start out 100 to 150 feet in height, and then they will become much larger as it reaches the shallow part of the ocean, a coastline. It will become twice as large. It can even become 3 times as large. But basically, if you start out with a wave that's 50 meters, this is all in meters, 50 meters, about 150 feet, where it would reach the United States. When it reaches the shallow water, it become like 300 feet in height.
Well, I remember Fukushima, and they actually had, that was a small tidal wave, but when I say small, it only was about 2 or 3 feet, that actually hit the harbors there in California. So lots of credibility to this.
Yeah. And that was a normal tsunami. A mega tsunami is much, much more destructive. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie Deep Impact.
Yes.
That was a mega tsunami that you saw coming towards the coastline. That was huge. That must have been, I don't know, 500 feet at least.
Yeah, it was a big one. It was a good movie. Good.
Yeah.
So what are we seeing here? Now, this is the volcanoes, right?
So this is a lot of the volcanic islands around the world. This is where they are. It shows that they are in every ocean, and this is likely to happen in time everywhere around the world. So every coastline, every island will be affected by what I see is starting to occur now.
So when I look at this, we know that we're seeing Africa. Mm-hmm. This part is most likely going to break off. Yeah. We know over here that you look at Papua New Guinea, that there's places, as I understand, on the island itself, that the land has shifted so bad and to such a degree of intensity that you can't go in there. So this is changing. We're now seeing, for the first time, I think, up here in Hawaii. And of course, all we know as well is what took place with Japan as well. So, and as I understand that the volcano up in Iceland is now starting to smoke.
Yeah, well, it's been doing that for quite a while. We've had some eruptions in the last few years there. But it's everywhere. It will be like wherever you have these volcanoes, they are going to start erupting. And I think Indonesia is one of the hot places. They've had quite a few already. There are so many volcanoes there. And there's one there.
Can we talk about this one? I think a lot of people don't realize that you folks right there off of Oregon and Northern California and southern part of Washington State, you guys got some kind of really big volcano, about 100 miles or so, I believe, offshore. And
yeah, I think there's actually a couple of cones if you look in the ocean. Just off the coast, all over Northern California, all those places, there are volcanoes there. Some of them they haven't erupted for a very long time. They dormant volcanoes, but it does not mean that they cannot be reactivated.
Exactly. So, can we talk about this has been fascinating, the aliens that I thought that this was a beautiful, excuse me, I was reading it. I was like catching ahead of this, folks.
Yeah.
This was an interesting paper, Claudia. Mm-hmm. It really was. So I'll let you go ahead and talk on this. I love your point of view on this.
Thank you. So first of all, I wanted to say that aliens exist. We have plenty of evidence that they do. And first of all, from the kind of monuments, ancient monuments we have, like the pyramids. And at the moment, we don't have the technology to be able to build these kinds of buildings. They were so accurately built that we could not at this time build them. So that shows you that they were built with very advanced technology that we don't actually have at the moment. At least we've not been given it. And the fact that they don't just occur on Earth, they occur in every ocean. You see there's a blue crystal one was found in the Bermuda Triangle. They're all over the place, bottom of the ocean. That one is in China, and the ones in China are, and the first one on the left is from Mexico, the one on the right is from China, and the one at the bottom is from China as well. And as you can see, it's covered in soil and vegetation, but it's not a natural mountain. You don't get a natural mountain in that shape. It's impossible. So we know it's an artificial created building, a pyramid, which is full size. In Bosnia, we have a whole lot of them together. So it's a complex.
Look at that.
It's amazing. They're everywhere. And we have them on Mars. And that shows you that they are alien structures. It indicates that there's some kind of alien species or being that goes around building pyramids. I think some people have come up with evidence with them being on moons of Saturn or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe something like that. They are everywhere, basically, in the solar system. I didn't go into that. I just kept it basic. But it shows you that aliens, because it's on Mars has to
I mean, you can't deny the fact that and it's just not one.
No, there's lots. And later on, I show the face that's on Mars as well, which indicates that there was alien intelligence there building things. So aliens exist. There was intelligent life on Mars. It may not be there anymore, but it was there. So there's evidence of it. And then we have evidence that there are aliens here that are giving people on this planet this technology. And how do we know that it's been given? It's not been invented by humans, because we know that they did this with the Nazis, say. So they went from flying little biplanes to suddenly have anti-gravity drives. How is that possible? We know how human technology progresses, and this is evidence of alien technology.
This is fascinating.
Exactly.
When I saw this, you look at this, it tells you that the skies above are crowded But this is a very interesting picture.
It is. And, we examined it, I think, once before.
Mm-hmm.
And the cylinders look like projectors, and the rectangular part in between looks like screens. So to me, it suggested a holographic projecting device.
So can I just say something on this one here?
Yeah.
From the pictures I've taken off the ISS with the sun simulator that they have up there, this is exactly what happens to whatever the material is. It gets very intense, but this is fascinating.
Yeah. And here is a holographic sun created in the clouds. So the clouds are being used like a three-dimensional kind of screen where they project light, and as you can see, it's very small from the plane, but it actually seems to appear wherever the plane is. And so that shows there's a lens system and a lighting system being used, and it looks much larger from the surface of the Earth. So there's definitely a magnifying lens system that's being used. And that is evidence of alien technology as well. And the way we know that it's alien technology is when the Nazis in the 1930s suddenly took this huge leap. And we know that human beings invent technology step by step. When they have this huge breakthrough, we know that they were influenced by aliens. So that's where the technology came from. We also know that Robert Lazar mentioned how a lot of the technology we now have, like cell phones and so on, came from reverse engineering craft within Area 51. So we know that cell phone towers, cell phone communication actually came from these alien technology. It's actually alien technology. But, and you can see these clouds here. You can see these are not normal. These are disc-shaped clouds. What else is disc-shaped? Disc-shaped craft that can cloak themselves and make themselves look like clouds. How can we ever have 5 clouds that are natural, that are first of all disc-shaped, but then we have 5 of them together with exactly the same structure? I
tell you, sometimes, Dr. Albers, I go out and I look and I can see a clear blue sky. I actually caught the International Space Station as it went by in the daytime. But here's the thing. I swear I get the feeling sometimes I'm not really seeing what's really there.
I agree with you. I don't think we are. I think our sky is more and more simulated every day.
Yeah.
And then we have to realize one thing. The technology that we are given or allowed to use is never good for us. Cell phone towers emit radiation.
Yes.
We are not allowed to move away from burning fossil fuels. Whoever comes up with some kind of invention is either killed or destroyed in some way. And the fossil fuels are not healthy, and they use a lot. We have to pay for them all the time. When the elite that have been given this technology have 0-point energy.
Yes.
So, and then they get to live in paradise like this, which may be in outer space, where they have 0-point energy, they have clean air, they have clean water, they have plant life that's most likely not genetically modified, because we know that genetically modified foods are bad for us.
Yeah. That's why they keep feeding us this stuff.
Exactly. So we know that these elites that are getting this alien technology, and this seems to have happened all over the world. But the same story goes for what happened in ancient times, that these aliens created elites, they were not for benefiting the whole population, because the elites would then enslave the common people and use that technology against them. And the same thing's happening nowadays. So we know that these aliens are not actually looking out for us. That's my point.
Thank you. I think that they're out to do us harm, to be honest with you.
Yes,
So
I think so.
now this was on Mars, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is on Mars as well, and we have a pyramid. It seems to not have the apex stone or something. That's what's it called, the capstone. But there's a face, and we know these aliens had 2 eyes and a mouth like we do. So they were humanoid.
Yeah. I happen to believe that.
Yeah. Now, and then I went on to explain that God himself is an alien, the creator of the universe, because he's not of this earth. But he seems to be different because he gave his people laws and he freed them from slavery, the common people, and gave them laws where we tell them, don't harvest everything from the trees. That's to take care of the poor and the stranger. So this is a different alien God that actually cares for the common person. So maybe we should listen to what he has to say. That was my point.
Well, and it seems like he has enemies, and which
Exactly.
would be, no matter how you looked at it, would be aliens as well. You know, I contend that our species, Homo sapiens, how we ever got to the top of the food chain when we beat out the other 6 species that were here, going from Cro-Magnon to Denison and etc., that there has to be something else going on, because the evidence is everywhere that we're apparently not the only species here, Claudia. That's what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah, that's for sure. But the thing is, whenever we encounter aliens, which the alien species, we have to realize one thing. They're actually delicate. They do not seem to procreate through natural means like we do. They seem to use clone technology, which, as we know, means that the species is actually too weak, because we know from agriculture that when a plant is a hybrid or is genetically modified, it will not procreate normally. You have to plant it each time, or you have to create a clone. And the same thing happens with all artificial devices. Whenever you produce something artificially, you produce an exact copy. You don't produce copies that are all unique, like the natural, which I now call the natural technology created by the creator God. And I actually wrote an article today, I haven't sent it to you yet, where I show what happens with a leaf. A leaf has about 100,000 cells in it. And each one, so each leaf has 100,000 cells. So a plant will have 1 trillion cells, and each cell is like a city. It has energy production system. It has a central processing unit. It has transport mechanisms. It's like a city. But this is what I call primary technology, which is created by God. And if one plant has 1 trillion of these cities, you can imagine how many they are in the whole species on Earth. It's incomprehensible. And each leaf is unique.
You see, let me tell you, this is why I love our conversations and our classes on Monday night, because what we're talking about is what so many people are searching for, is this ability to understand where life is, and that life is not defined merely by the sentient consciousness that we have. As you said, a leaf contains, what, 1 trillion of these cities? I mean, that's incredible. And to think that expands beyond and then goes below.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see, that's the primary technology of our universe. That's just one example of it. Whilst every other, the alien species and humans will take that primary technology and transform it into something else. But you have to realize we're talking about 2 extremely different technologies. And people like to be in awe of what the aliens create, the alien species, but they have not gone much further than we are when we compare it with the creator's technology, which is these cities within a leaf one plant will have 1 trillion of these, one small plant.
It always, as I remember my days in theology, that it says that the life is in the blood. And that when you look at our blood and you examine it, even down to the cellular level, it's a marvel of creation itself.
That's right.
It really is. And you think about that is where the life is. I mean, Dr. Albers, you're a pretty smart person. I just thought I'd tell you that. We've had a full group in here tonight, and the hour again, I find these shows to be like time travel, because time is so compressed that I'm not aware of a minute passing. It's seems much slower. Much faster. I don't know. Fast and slow. What does that mean?
I know. And I didn't even mention what Scott found, this wheel in space that looks like a space station. Then he photographed another UFO in the sky the other day. It's quite amazing.
While I have you, may I pull up something? I was doing a little work today, and allow me to pull this up, because I think you may find this to be of interest. So this was from the early days of SETI. All right. You and I have seen this. What I did, here you are. So can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. So as you can see, this was from February 2007. This is when SETI had both stereo A and B going. Claudia, I put this in reversed and slowed it down. And also, you can actually see where I did slowing down the motion. So you can really see the light particles coming in through here. But watch.
Is that Earth? That planet is that Earth? You don't know?
You know what? I don't know, because wait till you see what I caught. I've had this for almost 3 years. I do studying on it all the time. More and more people are trying to look for these files. Many of them don't exist, but watch this, Claudia. Do you see that?
Yeah.
See that?
Yes.
Let's go and repeat that again. Right there.
Wow.
Something is shot off. There it is. Look at that. It comes from here. There's no other place for it.
No.
Because whatever this is obscuring but watch.
Wow. Yeah, we can see it. Definitely. There's something moving away fast.
Yeah. So, I said, well, maybe it's a comet, but a comet, we would see it coming. You can see how the rotation, by the way, are you noticing something else?
Look at the
background stars. Now explain to me, why are we seeing the stars, Dr. Albers, almost like we're seeing the center of something down here? This is what happens when you slow this down, folks. Can you explain that to me? Because I've never seen this before.
First of all, most of these spots that we see in these images, and that's now, and we will see more, and as the years go by, we see more and more. It's not stars, it's debris. And it's debris that has been brought in by the stellar cores, because they go into the sun's corona at the beginning and they shed their outer layers.
Interesting. And look at the Birkeland current on this.
This outer layer of material is so low in energy that basically it has no gravitational pull whatsoever. So it just floats around.
Well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So the inner solar system is filled with the stuff. It's all over the place. And this is what we're seeing. In this case, we're seeing it move. So it's responding to a field.
I just never, it's like we're almost seeing this projection.
Yeah, as you can see, this debris is actually is rotating downwards.
Yes.
So it's being attracted by something in this case, which will cause it to rotate. But
and whatever's shooting off of, if this is the Earth, something came off of.
Yeah, and that big circle means something as well. There must be something there. And as you can see, the debris in front of it.
Mm-hmm. That's why I can't say that it's a camera anomaly.
No, and that means there's a large object there. And it's not like a transparent glass or anything like that. There's something, there must be something there. Well, I don't know what it is. It could be a stellar core. Like I said, some of them are huge, but they have a weak gravitational effect. So we could have a huge object as large as the sun, and it's almost like having a little tiny moon there.
So I'll pull up let me pull up this other one here. Okay, so I'll have to stop share.
Okay, so
this. So I have one for you that, here we go. So here was the original.
That's the HI image.
Yeah. Look at what happens here. I noticed this, that something, you see this? Something is coming off of what is the sun.
Yeah, it looks like the sun is interacting with that object. Now,
see the planet. Did you see that right there?
Yeah, look at that.
It shoots from our sun. Look at that.
Well, it could be it's actually shooting from.
And there's the object that comes off of the. There.
Yeah. So I think what we have here, some kind of technology is being used to fire at something.
Yeah.
But the natural celestial objects we have here, well, first of all, that large one seems to be, at least the background seems to be rotating.
What's so maybe odd?
More than one there superimposed on each other.
Maybe, yeah. I just know this object here, it's perfectly round. Like I've seen the comets, sun diving comets. I see them all the time. They come, we know where they come from. There's, but that actually, Claudia, produces a shadow. Watch. Yeah. You see that? I don't know. And there's that object being shot off of the sun. It's coming directly off of the sun.
Yeah.
I'm trying to slow it down.
And you see that the sun is not supposed to act like what we are seeing here.
No.
The sun doesn't do that. The sun shoots CMEs out. It doesn't shoot out this intense brightness and then bring it back again. That does not look like the sun at all.
And here's the object right here. I captured it right there. Now watch. Did you see that?
Look at that.
Look at that. It's like we know it's being boom. It's almost like it's being shot at this.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just thought.
No, that's fair. I wish I knew what it was, but this
and you can see the bow shock
after launch. So stereo B is likely to be behind the Earth.
Yeah, this one it's dead anymore. They say it's dead.
Yeah.
But here's the bow shock as well. This is what's so freaking weird is that there's energy being, produced and you can see it going.
Yeah, to tell you the truth, I think maybe what we are seeing, that interaction there, is not the sun, it's something else.
Here, something else?
Star there.
Yeah.
And the Earth is in between. I mean, there's a large one on the right.
So I think this is, you could write a story on this. It looks to me like a battle's going on.
Yeah, it does. It does look like some kind of.
Something is being shot off from here, and then it's retaliating here.
Hmm.
I'll send you the file, Claudia, and you could do your own examination on it. I'd love to see what you come up
You
with.
see, look at that. It's like something, a light is engulfing the earth,
Mm-hmm.
and then it goes back again. The sun doesn't act like that.
Can you still see that?
It releases CMEs and they keep on moving through space. It doesn't launch and then pull back. That's not the sun.
And the idea that this is casting a shadow upon it tells me it's so telling on this. I contend that this is a ship because you can see what's happening here. You have to look at the background. Again, look at the rotation, folks. It's not what we see today. They have fixed it. What we see today is this sterile rotation, Claudia.
Mm.
So, yeah, I just thought I'd share that with you.
Yeah, I think that there are probably a lot of ships out there.
I would agree with that.
Close to stereo spacecraft that, I mean, Scott saw one. He found this wheel that looks just like one of these toroidal-shaped space stations.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it looked like.
Well, I'd love to get him on and let's take a look at that.
Yeah.
Well, this has been, we've gone over, but this has been a fun evening. Thank you so much, Claudia, for the work that you do. You actually have some supporters in your field. I've been alerted to a professor at a college here in the United States who happens to be a supporter of you. And so I'm going to reach out to him and see about maybe having a conversation. But more and more, what your work that you have been so heavily criticized on in the past is now proving to be, in fact, very valid science. And I think that we're all very honored to have you here each Monday night. And I just
want
to say thanks. So there you go.
Thank you. I didn't think any physicist would ever listen to me because most of them know that, the subject that I go into is basically taboo. So I'm very surprised, and that's wonderful.
I think that we have shown that they haven't figured out the standard model, the unified theory. What happened to it? No, and I'm just of the age where I can remember the Jetsons. I want the flying cars,
Oh, yeah.
They don't have that yet. But, what we do have, however, is we went beyond Dick Tracy. What Dick Tracy had, the phone and the video thing on the wrist. So we're living science fiction, Dr. Albers. So the criticism that so often, when I see visionaries like yourself, when you begin to look at the science and look at the science from a different perspective, those are the breakthroughs that happen because others begin to see it and they say, now, wait a minute, let's listen to this. Let's start taking an approach. And I bet you within the next decade, we will see major papers coming out on much of what your theories are today.
That's nice.
Yeah. I just happen to think that if we survive what I don't know seems to be coming on, I'm going to do a show, I think maybe tomorrow night, called "Are We in the End of Days?" And it's just to let everyone know, I'm really thinking about going ahead and doing this. Apparently, the Aboriginals, they are now speaking, and their elders are now saying that we are, in fact, in the end of days. And they are now speaking out in what they see coming in the next 2 years. And that's what they're saying we literally have is 2 years. So It's very interesting. We're getting a lot of the native peoples of the world, and the Aboriginals are the oldest, most isolated race of Homo sapiens. In fact, I would not be surprised to see, if I have not seen a study on this, that I'd be curious to see what their genome is as far as their species specifically. So they are saying that the elders are now saying it's in the heavens. The signs are now showing. So I may do a show on this tomorrow. I think it'll be.
Sounds interesting. Well, I would agree with them. I think these objects are trying to tell people that it's time to get this spiritual house in order because God's coming back.
Now, that's an interesting point of view. I like this because, see, I've contended that the God of the Bible, he left. He took a ship out, and on my contention, I am not a Christian anymore, but my contention in my studies was this. If you believe that Solomon existed and that he was here, Solomon, I believe, and I actually wrote a paper on this, that Solomon so hurt this God, this deity, by his betrayal, that he left. He said he would return, but the betrayal was of such great to God himself, what Solomon did, that he packed up and took the whole power with him, and,
Yeah, I think there is something about the Holy Spirit leaving the inside of the ark, the Shekinah glory.
It lifted.
Temple.
The cloud lifted.
The thing is that the prophecies were such that we're saying that from the beginning of Genesis, it says that one would come who would destroy the serpent. And that's what I mentioned in my article. And that one was Jesus. And he did come. He came, he was crucified, he died, he proved his love for the people that he created by dying for them. But he got rejected all the time. Why? Why don't people understand love? Why don't they understand his goodness? And the reason I explain that is because in the Garden of Eden, the serpent took over. And then he had contact. He could telepathically talk to every human being and tell them to do what he wanted. So you could tell them, no, don't listen to him. And they didn't. So that's why he got rejected, and why it's so difficult for people to sometimes accept that he simply loves them.
Well, I think today he said
he would come back. Even that was 2,000 years ago. And he said at the end, he will come back.
No, I understand it. I think today is that there's so much mistrust in the world.
Yes.
And it's very difficult for our species to be cognitively aware of factors that are right in front of us. We seem to be a species with amnesia. I really do believe that. And, I hope that there's an answer for all people, but because if in fact the earth is going to experience, and, I think it gets right back to where we started this program almost 90 minutes ago, is the fact that our solar system is interacting with another system. I think that if he wanted the evidence, that Secchi piece, Claudia, from 2007, when they turned that camera on for the first time, I think it blew the folks in the military away. I think that the folks down in Huntsville, that at the time where that was built at, and what Goddard saw, I think they went, holy crap. I think that's what they said. What are we seeing here?
Yeah, but you see that they already knew since the 1970s that something was up, that something was going on. And noctilucent clouds appeared in 1850 for the first time. They'd never been seen before. And that shows you that these objects were here then.
That's a very interesting point. I'm going to write that down, by the way.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
And they started being observed more and more since then.
I think that we have a lot of more good shows.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. You know, we've had a full house in here, Claudia.
Wonderful.
I mean, we've had the largest crowd ever. So I hope everyone enjoyed this. I think that, you know, it shows that where spirituality and science can come together. I think that this is, you know, what everyone keeps looking for.
I think we are beings. We are spiritual beings.
Yes,
we have
I
a
agree.
mind. We're living in a physical universe.
I agree.
We have to take a holistic view to life.
You see, if more professors were like that, how many in the room, raise your hand, that would go back to school? That's all I got to say. I would, right? You know, so much love to everyone. Thank you for everyone in the chat room, the moderators. You know, Claudia, these are the nicest, smartest, respectful people I continue to see.
Wonderful. Thank you.
You know,
thank you, everyone.
And I just thank you again, Dr. Albers, for your time. You are just, this is fun.
Yeah, it is fun. I enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm learning.
Good.
All right. All right. Well, folks, probably be tomorrow night. Tune in and definitely go over. Make sure to subscribe over to Dr. Albers' channel. I think if I put that didn't, I'll put it in there. And I know you have some books on Amazon.
Yes.
Put that in there as well. So make sure to put Dr. Albers on your list, favorites on Amazon. So, because I sense another book coming.
Yes. I keep writing articles. Eventually, I have to put them together in a book.
Yes. So, folks, this is the thing that we get to see it. And we love seeing, again, when others go, I heard Dr. Albers say that. So, all right, everyone, have yourself a good evening. We'll see you again real soon, and just be kind to yourselves. That's the first thing. And thank you, Dr. Albers. Stay with me as we go off the air. All right, folks, we'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.